What's up? This is Renergy coming through, dropping some gems for people that can't comprehend. I'm not going to really have too much time to explain. I hope you can have an open mind and just kind of surf the waves here. Now, you see how I got the M. M is the 13th letter. And we see M, we hear M and sounds like M body. And if you were to spell M as it sounds with the E can also look like a 3 as a capital spelled like that, right? So tilt to different sides. Now, if you were to spin the E the opposite way, it would look like a 3. We know that a C is like this. We know that Moses split the Red Sea. So if you put two C's together, you can get the E, you can get the M. Now, check this out. So M is the 13th. So we see the 3, and Moses had the staff. We know that Adam gave a rib. It's funny that like the C splits, we could also see two A's that could make it an M, and the capital A has that staff going through it as well. Technically a triangle. We know the number one is a three-letter word, like the triangle, and just like the number one that resembles a rib. And we see words like vibration, we see rib and vibration. We also see the V in the center of the M. So when we get into abracadabra, that's going to take it from the A to the Z. So when we see the three pyramids or the three triangles in the M, and we see three Z's when you sleep. Um, Maybe the A is 3 in the single triangle, but we see add A to M is adding M. We also see AM as morning, and then we see night or evening. So to keep it on point with the title, because I don't want to drop it too deep, I want to keep it correlating and connect the dots to these bigger pictures here. So when we look at three M's, so we write those sideways as the 33. We also see the word level. And no, Adam gave a rib to Eve. We could say to Even. We also see the word Eve. And the letter N has one more rib. So this gets really deep because I'm talking about kind of dimensions and reflections here. And I was looking at one of my favorite posters, Liquid Swords. And you could see the G and the W. So the G, we're getting into centrifugal force. We're getting into that G force. And then you always see symbology in colors. We see the ruby on the forehead. We see the blood on the floor. We see the black and the white. Right, but what I'm going to get into is the G and the W. I always thought it was interesting that Wu-Tang Clan WTC, and it was released November 9th, And if you just look at the numbers and the letters, that's interesting. That was 1993. Well, could be a reach. So we talk about Moses or talk about Jesus walking on water. So when we get into the three, I want to keep it to the title here with the C. So C, we get current, AC, alternating current, or CC. So we see electricity, and we see magnetism, because we see the E as electricity, and we see the M also being magnetism. Damn. So we know E is also the five, and there's also resemblance of Lucifer there too. With the five, we could see a L, we could see a U like this. We're looking from different angles here. So this is an epiphany I had earlier today, which probably got me to put this down. I'm gonna upload this. I don't see anybody tuning in, but that's cool. I don't really have too many followers, but I appreciate anybody who's watching this. So I was thinking about the word kaleidoscope, and kaleidoscope with a K, right? Kaleido is collide, a scope. Scope, we're dealing with vision, we're dealing with focus. So focus, we're dealing with Ophiuchus or Ophiuchus, however they pronounce that, is the 13th sign, the occult sign that's around in the center of the 12. They say it's Jesus, but Ophiuchus, right? I recognize that we're dealing with focus, just like Hocus Pocus is dealing with that P and the H, sounding of fire, we're dealing with creation, right? L elements. Um, so getting into the W, and for me, the seven, when you look at the seven, it's a crease. Talking about Jesus and Ophiuchus, Jesus Christ is also 1-3. So we see that 1-3 again, which is also the M. So JC is 1-3, right? And we see Nimrod, and we see all this relations to time. The could be the hands of time. So we say open, open sesame. Open is also Oden, because the P is also the D. Because we're dealing with the word patterns, and patterns we see tap turns. So we got to have your third eye open for this one. Patterns we see past. We see earn, and it's also earn, burn, learn, return. Um, so word. Now we're going to Moses in the word. In the beginning was the word. We see jin, beginning, and beginning. We see jin, to be or not to be. And the letter B after A is two triangles. So shit, man. I want to get into that W. So talking about this occult symbolism, because this is really tying into the kaleidoscope and the Ophiuchus dealing with the focus. So this relates to something I heard on Bro Sanchez. They're talking about dinosaurs. So when you look at the word open, like Odin, sesame, sesame, you also see Moses. There's one more E, but you see Moses and sesame and open. We see Odin. So check this out. When we see the word dinosaur, we see dino, which is also Odin. Since dynamite, dealing with time, or like L, Odin, L. So, fuck, it's so sloppy. You don't need me to write this, but you can see open, Odin, right? And Moses opened the sea, split the sea. So, keeping it to the dinosaur, this is what I'm getting at. In soar, we also hear source. So we Odin source, open source. Now, from the viewpoints, why will we have dinosaurs? Why will we have this black and white chessboard, this game thing? So as a kid, I used to try to recognize those 3D patterns that would come out at you, like looking cross-eyed, like man, I can only see one thing, but I remember the ones that would pop out to me easy. These would be the black and white ones. Look at the old lady from the young lady. So if you look at the face as black, the white would be the background. Boom. There's the young lady or the old lady or vice versa when you look at, okay, now I'm going to look at white as the background. Is that how it really is? No. But we see races categorized as black or white, which is we're clearly not black or white. Uh, and when we look at red, red is the bullseye. So when we're dealing with ripple, ripple is also rip. Like when somebody dies is rip, but you also see rib when you look at it from a different angle, right? So now like the 6 and the 7, that's the G. So the 6 and 7 equals 13 as well. So when we look at words like tie and untie, tie equals 7, which is crease, right? You look at it, that's a crease. The only number that creases. Untie is a 6, which unlike the 9 does not contain a rib. It's a continuous. So 9 can be like that, but it's almost like a lowercase g, but it's also, that's a 9. Which 9 is the high number. It looks like a balloon. And there's a reason, I believe. So we'll keep it on the knot. So it's like can and cannot, can and cannot. Uh, when you're dealing with ripple, like effect, F is the 6th letter. Okay, so I want to keep this with the W here so I don't lose track. Because this is going to this open up a lot of doors here when you get into the Grim Reaper and reaping what you sow in the Ankh. And the Ankh has to do with the knot. The Ankh comes from a place called Tayet in Africa. So we see tie and knot in the word Ankh. So it's kind of obvious. And English language came later. So it was formed around these kind of vibratory frequencies from the way I see it, how everything aligns, because there's this correspondence. And it's like if you have your third eye programmed or whatever, I think a lot of people see things in the black and white way that we're schooled as fish. And when you look at the fish fin, we're dealing with infinite, we're dealing with finish. And we get too repetitive because I want to get back to that W. So when we look at the W, just look at the letter itself. So there's a movie called 23 with Jim Carrey, which JC is also that 13. When we look at 23, so it's 13 and 23. It's interesting if you look at 13 and 23, you get the 33 if you look at those together. Um, that's just something that fell in place there. But as we look at the G, you can kind of see the 7 right there, how the 7 separated almost. I don't know. But in Jesus sounds like G. Because there was no J then. Because it's pronounced nowadays like Jesus. And we also see edge. So that brings me back into the vibration of vibratory frequencies. Because I see J doing with edge. We see ejaculate doing with masculine. Um, but with the W, double. Or you could look at like either way. If you look at the word W, you got L and U in it. I don't know why I was thinking two L's, but either way, you have an L and a U and W. But what I'm getting at too is when you look at 23, it's the number 5, and like I showed before, the 5. I want to show other symbols on records. I don't know if I have them, but they show the 5 at like the top of the pyramid. It's kind of like a sickle. I got a lot of these Blue Oyster Cult records. Damn, I'm live. I can't pause this right now, but I will on another stream. I'll go into a lot of records. Let's get into the 5. Um, but here we're talking about the center of the alphabet with the M and the N. Now we show a reflection. It's my best rendition. I hope I should have that just about right. But anyway, it shows a W and N. You gotta have your third eye open to see it, or if you see it disconnected as separate letters, not cursive, you can clearly see the W and N at the top and the M and N at the bottom. So what you essentially have is an equal reflection here, but you have a one oddball, which is the W or the M, which equals a 3, and you have that one oddball. Whoa, so I'm gonna get into that when that one hits me. But look at the if you look at forehead too, you got the 3 and you got the 1 right there. Then we've seen the triple crown at the top. The triple crown also represents the E or the M. Oh shit. The triple crown. Let me see if I have notes on this here. So in the word cross, we see source in the word cross. I got so many notes I'm not going to touch on right now because I wanted to show you just. I got to bring out some pictures so I can show the comparisons. Well, when we look at five, we hear the word vibe. Uh, so we got this dance with the N and the M. Like Nike, I see Mike play on Mike as a Michael the Archangel. And then we see Anubis right here. And if you look at a picture of Anubis, I'm going to show this in a presentation where I can do, oh, here. Let me use this time. Ah, shit. I don't have the internet on this phone. Fuck. Yeah, we'll say that for our presentation. But you can see Anubis. You can see the J's in Jesus. You see the 6 triangles. You see the L right here. Or the 7. So anyway, but this is the Triple Crown right here. I think that's what I was going after. Brain fart for a second. It's the Triple Crown. So we see a lot of these similar symbols. But to me, that represents a W. So I see the W as the 5, and you see the LU and the double U in the letter W. Um, and then we got the man and the woman there too. So it's interesting that the number 1, see the number 1 is also spelled with a W. You could spell 1 as WON. And now we're fucking with the Omni because we got LMNO, and you spell that backwards. The L can look like an I. We got Omni, and that's where we're fucking with Jesus and the 3 crosses, because this is all about that 3, right? It's a 3 M's. I titled this Sea Level. You can see the 3 C's. So I also see like alternating current because this has to do with correspondence. See, I see alternating current. And like if we look at the first shall be last, the A is also the 1, right? Because it's the first letter, right? So we got that one oddball there, but essentially that's the same symbols as first and last. And that can also be a 3. You know, if you look at the A as a triangle. Or if you spell the letter 1, O-N-E, which is also Neo. And it's interesting that if you do the numerology on 0, you got 26, which is 8, and 5, which is 13, which is 4, and 18, which is 9. 4 and 9 is 13, which is 4, and 15, which is 6. So 4 and 6 is 10, which is 1. So 0 equals 1. So I see that O-den is zeroed in. Because then we're dealing with an in and an out scope, and with a ripple, because could rip be red? Rip could be red. Rip could be red because rib is red. It's for your blood. Rib is your rib cage. Also, when you rip, you got blood, right? I'm looking at these symbols. A rip pull effect. You know, damn, that almost ties into consciousness, and with this, photovoltaic circuitry with plants versus the deadening vibration or whatever of eating animals or decaying flesh in a living organism. That's a whole nother thing because that also has something to do with consciousness. Um, but I got talks on that. I'm going to get into that one. But this is energy. I'm getting into energy. And when you see things like this, okay, we see that's the number 8 in this Earth, Wind, and Fire album, right? They say we got 8 magnetic points, right? But look at the top. The top is that up point. So like that's like the number 9. And it's interesting with when they got the infinity sign and they use wording like all things right or like true east, right? So what does that mean? Well, what do we know? We know that the N has to do with the center because the N, and if you look at the rib N, we got a rib N, right? Uh, North, right? All compasses point north. I run. To iron is it's interesting to iron. Okay, I'm gonna have to get that one to iron out versus the all compasses pointing north with iron. Does that have to do something with siren? Sigh is I breathing out for relief. Sirens are dealing with that red, white, and blue. Uh, I don't know. But red, we're dealing with depth because we're dealing with the bottom, right? So that's why red's on the floor. So must have some symbiosis to 4. But check this. So this is one thing I noticed, right? So magenta is the top color, right? This is the top. I don't know why they show orange here. It's magenta. So that shit's a little bit dicked up. Anyway, um, so check it. The bottom chakra is red. Where we communicate is blue, and they say violet, but technically it's magenta. Like if you think magic or majesty or highness, and that's a combination of the red. The red and the blue together is magenta. So here's the shit. This is the crazy shit. I don't have different colors here, but red, blue, magenta. The opposite color of magenta is not red or blue. The opposite color of the most high, which is the combination of the red and blue, is green, which is your heart chakra. So we're dealing with that R, with that vibration. Damn, a lot of shit. But also the center chakra. And we have that beat, just like the M and the N, the beat, just like the beginning of life. But now this is where I'm talking about that W, because we wave goodbye. We wave goodbye, which is goodbye. Like you've heard terms for Masons as the odd fellows or the good guys. Yeah, we wave goodbye. Why? So, that goes to the 5 and the L and the U. But also, get back on track, buddy. Damn. So we see swords, liquid swords. So we see like the wizard pulled the sword from the stone and sword from the stone. We also see words from the tones. And to keep going, I think I need my notes because this is a lot of freestyle and stuff, and I don't. Looks like I'm talking to myself here, but I'm gonna upload this, man. I hope someone gets to check this. Uh, and you see that little ripple effect right there, like that little could be, you know. That's obviously the Grim Reaper. So then we're dealing with Reaper reaping what you sow, and reap you got peer backwards, spelled like pear, but you can say like peer, which is to see, and C is also three. So keep it at the title. Uh, with the Bible too. I don't know, man. W. You can see W as Bible, like two poles, like two lose, but double U. That's possible. That's possible. That could be right from the center. Um, anyway, I'm reaching there, but it's interesting too that that dude is wearing green. That's the one dude right there that's wearing green. Well, maybe those background guys are wearing green too. So anyway, reaching there. So I'm gonna get back to my notes. I forgot where I was going, man. But let me see if I can pull something up here. A lot of these are vegan notes I have. But when you look at old shows from the 70s, they had one called Three's Company. And if another interesting thing about Three is like I just showed with the eight, the symbol. 33 is that magic symbol. If you show the 1 3 that way, you got like that, like splitting the eight. And that can only represent that to me is symbiotic to the 3 6 9, because that's a reflection of three, which is the 2 3s. 3 and 3 is 6. Separating the 8 is the 9. Um, okay, damn. All right, let me drop it hot. So we're getting into the three crosses, right? Jesus at the center. So, like I said, we're dealing with now. We always start the day with Monday, which is the first day. So now always kind of corresponds with one. Used to be Sunday, blah, blah, blah. 2 months were added to the year. Okay, I'm going to get into that one. So we look at AD and BC, right? Which is also 2 3, and 1 2, which is 3. So we're splitting the 8, right? 5 and 3 is 8. So it's another way of splitting the 8. This is how they split the 8 for us right here with the BC and the AD. Oh, shit. I put AB. I'm thinking Abrahamic. AD 1 4. Fuck. I'm dealing with that 5. So it's 5 and 5. Maybe we got the W. Shit. We got that W right here. We got that W because the 2 5s. We got the LU, and the 2 5s. There's different ways I see that shit, okay? But that shit's deep. That's one way that's fucking dropping in. But this is where I'm getting, because this corresponds with time. Big shout out to Alan Watt, who, rest in peace, not Alan Watts with the S, Alan Watt. Without the S, he's the truther. Um, Mysteriously ended up dead after talking about all these current events going on. Now all of a sudden, nobody knows what happened to him. But if you get a chance, look up Alan Watt. And we look at the three crosses.
The two thieves are also the two threes. I also see the big cross as the M with the two little threes in between them because we see the level and all that. With the shit I started out with, the whole thing, I see that right here in these three crosses. It's just another way of writing it. Um, but it also has to do with time because we're dealing with now. And we're also seeing it has past. Like I see tap turns and pat turns, and we see past, and we also see future, right? Future, we're dealing with torture. I don't future. We could also look at that as few, sure, like few or sure, because we're dealing with a few when we're dealing with certain things. Um, if we look at that M with a three and the three, the six letters of F. So we got that FM, right? We got that FM. You know, everybody can be a Mason or is a Mason, which we see the MA or AM, like the radio signals on the bottom and the FM is on the top. I'm just playing around with what I see here. Um, so anyway, they also, I heard they worship a god called Few, Fu. You don't know where for sure, but going through that, I see what words have the word T-U-R in it. I see torture. I don't see too many words with T-U-R-E. Future, torture. The tour we're doing with rotating. We're dealing with our torus field, or our center, our M, our middle. Idle is also to slow down. So it's interesting that fast is also staff. We're dealing with time and speed. So speed, we're also dealing with fast. Moses had the staff. We're also dealing with that one. Um, Something to think about. But anyway, where you could be getting into these T's also with these positive and negative thoughts, because the future and time, it's like thought, right? Except all that presents is the past. So this gets into seesaw, like all these games we play as kids. Seesaw, we're dealing with that evening and the balance, and evening is also dealing with nighttime, right? So we're dealing with add M. Add M is AM. Evening, we're dealing with nighttime, like the seesaw. So when I talk about seesaw, it's all that presents is the past. Because if you look at the saw, which ironically is the cut, like if you look at the center here, it's like a saw we're cutting, and we see the thorns, which is also the north with the N. We got that rotate and that tore and thorns, which is also that cutting, like that saw. I also see that in Star Wars, but we only see saw. So all we see is the past, because all that presents is the past. We get this as like, man, that's hard. That's whatever frequencies these are. But here's the thing: the future. Okay, it's funny that you add one more rib to the top of that T, you get the F. That could be a reach, but either way, that falls in place. But when we're dealing with the future, that's imagination, because there's no such thing as the future. It's always now. So people want to climb to heaven. It's interesting if you add one more rib to that T, you get the H. Fucking crazy, huh? Thought. That's just a thought thinking. When we talk about heaven, we know that, okay, the H is the eight, right? So, and that what could be perceived as a ring is also a rung. It's a rung on a ladder. So ring and rung, we're dealing with sounds. So we're dealing with these vibrations. Um, but not to lose track, because we're dealing with that C and that saw. I'm talking about imagination, because we see in the vibration of the alphabet from the center, LMNO, illuminate or whatever, opposite way, we see omni, and we could also look at as a mirror effect with the M as a W, um, water, wizard pulling the sword from the stones. So see and saw, and then future. So the future imagination is where people are living in servitude for thinking we deserve eternal pleasure or wanting eternal pleasure, or it's really a way of separating yourself from your power. It's a way of bowing down. It's a way of serving. It's imagination. It's a way of siphoning. I feel like, man, energy, because emotion. If you look at the word like emotion, it's E and M, or you could just look at that as M, ocean, and that M can also be a three, right? So you look at that as three ocean. You can look at that as three ocean. And if you have the notion, we know that M takes on the N. N is hidden. If you got the notion, motion, osh, in, or you could say in, sh, in, quiet in. So in the military, your job is your MOS, your military occupational specialty. What you do is your MO, that's your method of operation. Moses, split the sea. We know osmosis is spreading something, right? Um, in a nutshell. So, but we're also dealing with that zero too, and that zero M. So that also I heard takes on all vowels, and just like that LMNO, if you connect those, you could write that backwards, and we see owl. We got that cremation of care. It's a sloppy M in it, but you write that cursive, you can see the W, you see owl. So cremation of care. That's also two C's. Cremation of care. At the Bohemian Grove is the big owl, and just like that sideways there infinity sign, it also looks like two owl eyes, which also sounds like allies, does it? It almost sounds like allies. Still owl eyes, maybe because they're like secretive allies, owl eyes. But it's weird how like the shit pops out my third eye. People could say I'm really creative. People could say, man, how do I see all this shit? I don't know. Just things pop out to me. It's like correspondence. And I look at it like something I spoke on a presentation taught Wally Baba. How could he stay in a cave for so long, for like 40 years, and like look so young or whatever? It was wild because I actually saw real footage. It was like, holy shit. And his the things he was saying was so deep, and a lot of it was when you see everything, you kind of like hang like a lotus above water, or whatever. And to me, that's kind of like how we walk on 2 feet and pivot step. So that also has to do with see it saw, because we're dealing with action and planning. So we're dealing with action and planning. And so when I see future, it's imagination. So future is fear. Future is fear. Past is regret. So people are ruled, and past is attention. People pay attention to your past. So psst, 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 to get someone's attention. It's also the word past. It's say passed on, but anyway. And then future is fear. People are afraid to do new things because they're past or whatever. So it's like a way that your reality is kind of, but like you want to be the puppet master of your own reality. I mean, it's like your third eye, man. So I'm putting this down to set some sparks, because certain things I see put sparks in me, and I'm just sharing with this anyone that wants to add anything to the flame, throw some wind on the fire. Um, got anything you want me to dig into or dig anything that I'm getting into, let me know. I'll keep going with it. I'll get more into it. I really like getting into this pattern stuff. I look at how much awesome shit I've been into as a kid, watching like Ninja Scroll and like Japanese animation and kung fu and learning dim mak and pressure points when I was like 10 years old, 9 years old. More of like badass martial arts like ninjutsu over just karate, but then actually like really learning from watching stuff like Bruce Lee and stuff like that. Shit sets sparks. But like to me, it's all about getting in your groove, and I'm into like artwork, and I see this stuff with other artists. I know how they write stuff, and they're like, it's like channeling, where stuff just flows through them. So you could look at something and be like, man, that guy's associated with some secret society or something like that. And not that a lot of people aren't. I'm sure a lot of people are, but like I've known people that legitly weren't just artists that tap into these frequencies where they put down these patterns and stuff. So human and lumen. I got more stuff into colors, um, but I was writing that into monkeys. So like they said, the black and white of how races and there's racial tension. Feel like a lot of racial tension is created, and it has to do with identifying or categorizing. And in cat, we see the word act. We also see tack, as in like tic tac toe. We also see attack. We also see static. We're dealing with electricity here, and in the Sphinx we see six. We see six right in the Sphinx and how it's spelled. Um, but when Jesus, so the two thieves, these are the two thieves because we're dealing with past, which is regret, and future, which is fear. That I got from Alan Watt, so I want to give him credit for that about Jesus on the cross, and I'm tapping into like he set off a lot of sparks for me too. So if you want to know a lot of factual stuff about like the Club of Rome, things about secret societies and all of that stuff, I'm still learning about that. But he talked about a lot of that stuff um, from being on the inside in the music industry, supposedly. But stellar research, like some of the books and getting into like Edward Bernays and how all the propaganda was started. The Cecil Rose Foundation, a lot of stuff. I wish he would learn a lot of the stuff that I'm learning now, but it's also like picking up where a lot of these wonderful people left these ripple effects and inspirations, because also learning about what we really should be eating for food and how to master this energy field of this sea and the saw, not just putting up a bunch of shock work painting. Some of it's cool, it makes you think, right? But like stuff to the connecting messages or connecting meaning, connecting the dots, feet on the ground, being able to pivot step, it's still one step at a time, but it's illuminating the fear. And people are ruled in fear, and it's just like that kaleidoscope. So it's being able to adjust your vision. Um, Damn, somebody put it to me really good today because I was like, the currents of the traffic. I had wanted to take a left into that store, but my fucked up my willpower because I was with the currents of the masses. And my boy was like, no, but you just have that in your willpower and you find a way around that. My verbiage is off because I forgot how we worded that, but it was on point. And so when we see verb, we see the word V and ERB, which is the B is also a D when it's lowercase, because the B and the D, like we're dealing with vibration. Should it go to bed? There's a 3 in between. Uh, so another thing about Jesus is Jesus is jealous. The God is jealous. God is a jealous God. So when you look at jealous, we see G-E-J, or edge, or J sounds like a G, right? And we see the L-U. Like I said, the L-U is also the 5. Right? So we can see the W, the 23 is the 5. So in the G-Lu, you know, they use jello shots, whatever, but G-Lu, so jealous, loose is Lucifer. Lucifer, jealous, Lucifer, Jesus and Lucifer. So edge, I see edge. We see the sword in so much symbolism, right? We see the sword. Don't we see the sword in so much symbolism? Now the I, the G and the I are the two that have, if you look at the letters, have the I. Now some you might have to change between lowercase or capital, but this is correspondence. This is the connecting the pieces of the puzzle that connect. And no matter how we make sense of it, at the end of the day, after this presentation, it's still a puzzle. But when you see that you can connect these pieces of the puzzle, man, we can paint these pictures. It's like, shit, man. We give meaning. But now we're talking about this, like a game, this alpha, omega, these vibrations spoke to me where I saw it speak and play game. Deck of cards, 54 cards. Shit, is it 52 or 54? There's 2 jokers. J, K, L, M, N, O, H, I, J. So we got the jackal right here. The jackals would carry them. So like I was showing with Anubis is the jackal. So Anubis is the jackal. You see the Anubis? Man, if I show like the old Egypt thing, it's the same thing, shaped the exact same. Look at the head and the face. The downward. Okay, so I'm gonna get into that. So fuck. Because the jackal is to the left side of the M and the N and O. Jackal. Which takes them away to the left, which is to the west. West represents death. Damn, that's back into the W. But check it when you go when we get into north, south. The M and the N is right there. So the S is the one oddball. So they really it's supposed the N is supposed to be the center, which we see the Z. So the 3 Z's like the sleep. So the S, east and west. Shit, that would be west, right? And then the south surrounds. So we could kind of see that like the serpent, the south surrounds. Okay, in Native American culture, the Dene said the direction south is for planning. So you turn your back to the north, essentially, is for planning. East is thinking. I'll get back to this because I got all four covered. This will be on one for my note. Let's see. Shit, if no one's tuning in, I'm not gonna go too long. We do with the P is the seventh letter and the F is the sixth letter. And it's interesting when we see this occult symbolism with the cross. We always see the P at the top, like we see the like that, right? What the fuck? We always see the P. You see the P at the top, which is the seven. It's interesting too, because if you put the P that way, it's the nine, and nine is the high number. So we always see that at the top. So it could be shown as a reflection. It could, it's occult shit. So if you look at the word like positive, fuck, this shit's so deep. I don't normally have a chance to get into this, so I'm gonna use a little more time because I got some powerful shit here. Now, when we look at positive, because I'm talking about how everything's vibration, we got the positive singles, also the cross. And cross, we got source, and we also got crow. The crow. Rest in peace, Brandon Lee. We know that all this weird occult shit, we're dealing with positive and negative, and a lot of negative stuff happens, right? For people that are renegades, renegade G, up here, bring it to you live and direct. The RE to the NE to the G. Got this. So we're looking at they say squaring the circle. We're also dealing with a 7 and a 6. Because the 7 is the crease. Jesus Christ. Priest is pressed, creased, Christ, Christos. So, good thing I have my notes down there so I could keep going. So when we look at shit, positive, it's like pause it, I have. And if you look at pause it, I have, that's positive, right? Because like the cross stealing the past in the future, it's all now. It's a vibration. But with this correspondence of vibration, of movement, we have the see and the saw. Because things move faster than the eye, right? And then we have our feelings, like one more rib. Could be a reach, but it makes sense. Uh, so when we look at composites, like depth perception, that's a composite. Like every that's hard, that's soft, that's a composite. And if we look at composite, it's like composite. What makes these vibrations like hard, right? I don't know. I'm just going decoding these words. But this shit gets even deeper than that. Because when we look at the even sign, the even, it's basically an 11 to the side, right? 11, and we see even 11. Now, if we go by gematria, we see the eve, we see the n, we see the 2, right? Side by side. So if we look at the m, we see the 3. When we look at the n, we see the 2. Which together is the 5 too, which is interesting because if we look at it's different ways of reading this because I'm getting 13, 14, but that's just more shit that's falling in place. Um, That's you have to have your third eye open to see that. Go for like the Monster Energy drink, how they write the M. But so the thing about that, I'm saying the pause sign, like talking about composites and positive. Equal is even. Equal is even. And so when we look at 11, it's 2 in gematria, equals 2, which is move. Because two is also watt. And like S is moving like guess with the G force and the S. UESS, but it sounds like S, right? We also have toe and two. 1, 2. We're getting to that. We're getting to that tones. All right, give me 2 seconds if you're watching this. So we're dealing with the wand when we're dealing with that one. And we look at like rappers like Ice Cube, that's also Ice Cube. And we're dealing with a cube because the 13 is also the 4. So the cube. And just how I showed the 3 with the one oddball, that's where the cube becomes like roof and floor. If you look at the root word roof and floor, they're pretty much symbiotic, except you got the L. You got that one oddball right there, right? Well, you got the R2 vibration. You got lower. The opposite of rule, which is lure. You got lure. Lure. It's funny. The 5 is like a fish hook. That's where I gotta get into my symbology. Damn. Check my Insta page, what it is, and you'll see some of that. Oh, I forgot I'm recording. It can't be sloppy. It's what it. It's what it is. I got a lot of notes that I have to put together because they're crazy. But when you look at the Omni, what's going on right now, and when you look at Chronos dealing with time, so you got Omni Chronos. I don't want to get too much into my notes here. uh, so Valhalla, Hallelujah, Hallmark cards. Something to do with Allah. To enchant. All right. That's something that the Jacobite talks about that. So the J and the I. The J is 10 and the I is 9, which is 1. The equal 10, which is 1. Let's get back to that wand. But to me, that's the 2 jokers in the deck are the J and the I. And Jesus was previously written as IHS. So it was originally written with an I first, and then they changed it to a J first. So if you look at, and it's interesting that IHS is 3 letters too at the center. Which equals 1, right? Because we got 9, 8, 17, which is 8, and 2, which is 1 at the center. Jesus rose, right? Jesus rose. So we see 0 and rose. And don't forget, 0 equals fucking 1. 0 equals 1, like I showed before. Then we're also dealing with focus because we're dealing with zeroing in. We're also dealing with nothing. So that's we'll kind of talk about creation here. Rosicrucians, rose and cross, source, um, Zorro. We're talking about the one eye because we're talking about one eye. You deal on one knee, and then we're also dealing with the omni. And now the symbology of dealing with the one, when you go down on one knee, you're doing that crease, right? Like the 7 or the L. I actually have to look. Well, I think one leg goes like this, right? And doesn't one leg go like that? When you go down on one knee. So, damn. So, anyway, I got to look at it. But that's what's flowing to me there. Uh, so I used to like Zorro as a kid. And Zorro had one eye. So the 2 months that were added to the month are also to the year are also the two jokers. Because don't look at my notes here. I gotta erase this stuff. But that 0 and that 1's important. So when we get to whoa, we talk about the game. We're dealing with conscious. We also see we see chess and consciousness. Getting back to that chessboard, and what I really want to talk about now too is how the months of the year were messed up. Because we talk about the circle. The only thing that makes sense, the old calendar was 360 days a year. It went by the fucking moon. Never goes wrong. They added all this complicated shit about our solar system. The Jesuits, right? They changed it to 365 days, 364 year days, whatever. The Jesuits created this shit. Then they had to prove it, and then they proved it. They proved it by going on these expeditions over the globe. They proved it by going to the moon. And anyway, now all of a sudden NASA is backing space exploration, outer space. Why? A whole lot of shit. Anyway, we get into Thule. We get the U and the L and the Thule. But I don't want to lose track of what I'm putting down right now, because what we're talking about right now is the 360 degrees and how that was changed, like also the ripple effect. So we see the circle. The circle was changed. What the term we use is squaring the circle. You see 007. We've seen the 007 symbology, which they call James, which is with a 1. And we got aim. We got the bullseye. But anyway, so it was changed from the 360. Uh, so the 2 months were added to change it, and that's the two jokers. I have to get into my notes here to get more into that, but I can't really pause this right now because I'm going live. So when we look at line, okay, we look at scope and zeroing in. We also look at like evening. We look at evening as adjusting, like just what's justice, right? Balance, and adjust, adjust. Add is atom to, and then just, and then we look at, if we look at a line is also that one. So they say the lamb lies down with the lion. Lion, I am. The I can also be looked at as a L. So if you look at lamb, like that, and lion, and we're also dealing with that lion's den. It's interesting we see only ONLI two in lion only. Uh, Elohim. So we deal with the Elohim. We're also dealing with the Lohim. We're also dealing with the owl him. So I want to get a little more into the monkey and the ape stuff, but maybe I'll do that in another one because it kind of ties into the M as well. And the ON. So after Monday starts with one. The first day, Monday, we're dealing with one, and then we got the M in front. The M is the three, so the one and the three is the 13. But so we got monkey. We're also dealing with the MON key, and you can only see a picture through the key. Like if you really want to see like to pop out what the picture really is, like yeah, if you can see what the key is. But if you're given a key that's telling you to look in the black or the white, you're gonna see that image. And so when you look at all these movies, uh, I don't know what I wrote about the Epcot Center and the T Code Center. I have to decipher that one. But I have something here on the old Sirius and Polaris. So I don't know. I see symbiosis in that with the I and the J too, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Could it be the M and the N? It has to do with separation of center with the P and the S. So Saturn must have to do with churning or something. But we know that what we know as gravity, or we know as the centrifugal force of the universe, went from Sirius to Polaris. We're given stories about the Milky Way, and the earliest stories say that the Milky Way had to do with the gender wars. It had something that corresponded with the universe. So what we do know is when we look at old symbology, we do see fucking symbols of old hunting symbols and things like that. And we look at the crystal caves of Honduras, we see the old vegan skulls and evidence of vegan culture when we're told we came from monkeys. And it makes no fucking sense that nowadays a primitive looking creature with hands and feet that has more fur, it resembles more claws and paws than the human hands, would be more vegetarian, and we would be more the ones consuming dead flesh, when all other animals don't have to cook animals, but we do. And to say that a more primitive version of us was hunting, when nowadays, if we compare it to the modern day apes, look more primitive than our ape like ancestors, which would have been a more civilized version of the ape. That makes no fucking sense that most of them are vegetarian nowadays, or vegan, really. Some of them do kill, and I feel that we are the stewards of the land. That's not their primary diet, and if that happens, it's because their homeostasis is fucked up. So I had cichlid fish. I'm stealing the camera now. I've been doing these notes, but I just want to get into this. I had cichlid fish because this all ties into the energy, and they're not cannibals, but they started eating each other when the chemicals in the water were fucked up and they weren't eating food. And I came home and I was trying to save them, and I just witnessed it, and I'm like, damn, man. now I look back and I recognize this like if you watch shows movies like Alive where humans turn to cannibalism to survive, or I can relate to my memory of eating animals where you have to overcome the feeling of eating an animal like I'm toughen up and eat that and get that sustenance and whatever. You have to subdue what's perceived as weakness, which is really empathy, um, to eat. But I understand the survival there. And I'm not saying if I was in freezing cold weather, my consciousness wouldn't change for sustenance. However, the sustenance you get from these dead animals comes from the living organisms they eat, the minerals. So our bodies, we survive like a motherfucker. We'll take whatever out, anything to survive. However, the mucus, whatever bad ulcers, whatever you get, you don't know what's going on in your brain. You don't know what's going on in the rest of your body. And all that byproduct is coming from the stuff that doesn't have true affinity to your body. So the only thing that's truly affinity that doesn't turn into fat in unwanted places or things like that is what's photovoltaic. So photovoltaic responds on a cellular level between two cells on a with electric. I'm still learning about it, but it's electrical. So GMO foods and things like that were created hybridized. I'm learning are not photovoltaic, and it's evident in the fact that they're acidic. So this is all tying into the energy of Renogy, where I'm getting this shit. So here's another cool thing I want to get at for my notes. So we know Christ is creased. Here's another cool thing. Christ equals 5. So we see that 7 and the 5 kind of breaking the circle. Um, shit. When we see Jesus Christ equals 7, devil equals 7. Both Lucifer and Jesus both equal 2, which also can be written as 11. Which 2 is getting into that toe, the what, tomorrow. And that fucking tomorrow, we'll talk about Jesus, has to do with tomorrow, has to do with future and heaven. Because you're never actualizing future. Future is always in your imagination. Damn. So that's something I just realized with that too. And then here's another thing about 2 is you got, like in Spanish, you got uno, dos. So dos, you got doze, like sleep, right? So we're dealing with that movement with the 2 going in different directions. Um, and you got doze and zeroed. So if you look at the word dark too, if you scramble that, you get card. We'll talk about the play game. So dark equals 7 and light equals 2. So just like how I showed Jesus, make sure I'm saying this correctly. So anyway, light equals 2. So Lucifer and Jesus both equal 2. Jesus Christ and devil equals 7. And dark equals 7. This is all going by gematria. Okay, this is stuff going from some other stuff I watched. Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost is 9. Okay, so Son is 3, Father is 6, Holy Ghost is 9. It's doing by number of letters with the 369. So anyway, I want to keep this in my groove here. So some of these things I'm gonna have to reflect on a little more to put to piece together for a presentation. But Damn, some of the shit's too deep, man. Like I don't want to get too far out from what I'm talking about. Um, okay, so we talk about the cross. I want to leave it at this shit, unless I see something else here, because I really got to go through this. We look at crease, right? Crease. Christ is on the cross. Then we look at increase. Increase is to increase is with a positive sign. So increase is the cross. Damn, I hope I can increase my followers here. Get some people watching this because I know I'm dropping some fire. So we're talking about molecule. I'm sorry, we're talking about molecule, the bowl. We're talking about molecule, and we're talking about miracle. So miracle. So a call we see ankle too. Um, let's get into some celestial stuff. I'll get into that, but we see rim miracle, right? So we see rim at the top of miracle, rimical, icicle. Um, damn, don't know what I was saying with that one. I used to listen to Black Moon when I was a kid, and they had an album called Enter the Stage. So that also made me think about the half moon and how we see so much half moon symbolic at the top of the cross. So usually we'll see it like that, which is the arc. But so I think about the half moon. We see the half moon. How could Earth shadow, obviously we know that's not Earth shadow making a we know that's not Earth shadow doing that, but what is that? Why is that half moon specifically so symbiotic? And I believe that has to do with dimensions. That definitely has to do with dimensions, whatever's going on. We see the sun and the moon out at the same time. So definitely affects dreams, affects my dreams when I wake up with a full moon. I notice I definitely have more crazy dreams. So thing that sucks is I can't pause this. But just holler if you're watching this because I want to make these better. Because I'm coming across some crazy stuff here. And I got definitely a lot more to drop with Moses, some stuff with it, Nephilim, which is the N and the Fel M. And damn, it's connecting different things with different languages in that one. So with the tightening and untightening, tying and untying, the loosening, um, it also has to do with the sowing and the reaping what you sow. And when you look at the ankh is like this. So if you look at a needle, it's like bead L. L is kind of like you can see the L right here. But you see the needle head right here. And it's like that has to do with you reaping what you sow. And reap also we see peer. And I also feel that the word ape has something to do with that as well. Because the only R has to do with vibration. So I feel the fact that we come from apes, I feel like I'm decoding some stuff here. Um,
with all the bullshit and like with the dinosaurs, with the Odin source. I think we can find people with their third eye open. Follow me. Let me know what you see here through this. Am I digging deep here or what? Because I feel like I'm onto some stuff. So, damn, this is about lightning. When you look at lightning, the symbol is kind of like three Z's with lightning. And we see N light N ing, which is Jin. So I want to get into the dimensions too with that too with the G and the counter G because there's two different Ouroboroses there, and with the Yin and the Yang, how that came from the Taijitsu. The Taijitsu was originally one circle, and that got split, and that's what became the Yin Yang, and that ties into the 7 and the 6. So that's about it for Steam here. It's about as long as I've gone by myself going through this because I got some notes here. I'm gonna go through this and try to put more of this together. Um, what going into that positive and the composites, and it's like we seek because we don't have. It's like composite, posit. I have positive, and then we're dealing with the zero. We're dealing with the eros, which is the love. So we see need L. Could that be need L, like need love? Could be a lot of things. I mean, but the L symbiotic of knot or crease. So we get the word priest, like press, crease, Christ. Um, double U, doubles, the bowls, two bull cane, two bull cane. You know, two bulls with a cane, and that cane is also the one. Um, Cane, you get that ankle, or so that ankle. Forgot where the fuck that was. So anyway, I'm gonna get more into this. Gonna get more into the dragon in the Garden of Eden. But drag N has to do with the toe. Toe has with the two, right? Because it has to do with toe dragging the on or dragging the N. And then the garden N, it's also guarding the N. It's guarding the N.